Am I the asshole for shaming my sister after I found a condom under my bed? So I'm 23 female and sex repulsed asexual. However, if someone loves sex, I'm never rude to them or think bad about them. If they have a healthy sex life and are happy, I'm happy for them too. My sister, 26 female, came to stay with me with her fiance 4 days ago. They got engaged 2 weeks ago and I'm so happy for them. My sister knows I'm asexual and how I feel about sex in general. I asked her as nice as I could if they could not do anything sexual in my house that I don't want to see or hear. Or if they could wait until I leave to school or work or the gym. She agreed and I thought that was that. Am I the asshole for shaming my sister after I found a condom under my bed? The first night they were there, I woke up to weird sounds and it took me a moment to realize what it was. They were doing it in the next room very loudly and didn't even close mine or their doors. I put headphones in, but needless to say, I didn't sleep well at all. There were more incidents after that when they did it in the shower and then at night. The next morning, I asked again as polite as possible if they could wait until I leave the house. She smirked, apologized, and said it won't happen again and not to worry. I was cleaning my room this morning and saw trash under the bed, and when I took it out, I almost threw up. It was a used condom. Am I the asshole for shaming my sister after I found a condom under my bed? I screamed, threw it on the floor, and just stood there in shock. My sister came to the room, looked surprised, and then laughed about it and said, "Oops, sorry." I was mortified and could feel I was about to cry. I asked her if they did it on my bed and why didn't they clean after themselves. She looked at me crazy and said that people in a real relationship have sex all the time. And I should stop making being asexual and gay into my personality and need to grow up. I said this is my house and these are my rules, and if they can't respect it, they can F off. If two grown people can't go 1 week without sex, it's pathetic and sad. Am I the asshole for telling my parents they're not welcome in my apartment because they did it in my bed? I'm 23 and living in my apartment that I share with a roommate. My parents came to visit the other day and I let them stay in my room and sleep in my bed. I took a blow-up mattress in the guest room unfurnished for a few nights. My parents woke me up last night because they were doing it loudly in my room and I was shocked. My dad came out afterwards with no clothes, cupping his junk to walk to the bathroom across the hallway, knowing I'd be able to see him because the guest room has no door. I told him in my effing bed and he laughed at me. The next morning, they asked if I wanted them to wash my duvet. Am I the asshole for telling my parents they're not welcome in my apartment because they did it in my bed? They asked me why I was so angry and I started yelling and crying, saying that they were disrespectful and gross. Then I said they're never welcome again, went in my room, threw all of their stuff out, including their bags and sheets, and shut the door. My mom said I was unreasonable and that I should think about how I'm treating them. She's the sweetest woman alive, so I do feel bad about yelling at her. And she's saying they didn't know the rules. My parents have always shamed me for my sexuality too. When I lost my V card, my dad had a period where he refused to pay for anything for me. And my mom said I was giving away the milk for free and nobody would want to buy the cow.
Storytime about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So a little background information, I was 18 and it was the summer before my freshman year in college. And it was towards the end of the summer, so I decided that I wanted to take a vacation with a few of my girlfriends before we all went off to the different colleges that we were going to. And I have a lot of pets. I have 4 hamsters, 2 snakes, a tarantula, 2 birds, and 1 fish. So I asked her if she could watch all of them. She said yeah, so I wrote her out a schedule of when they need to be fed. And I wasn't even going to be gone a week, so it would be pretty easy because I already cleaned all their tanks and everything like that. And I wasn't worried at all because I trusted my sister. She had 2 dogs and a cat, so I thought she was going to be fine. I called her the first 2 days. Everything seemed to be going well. And I called her on the 4th day and she didn't answer the phone. So I called my mom, asked her if she could get a hold of her. And my mom said that she spent the 2 days at her boyfriend's house, like for part 2. Part 2 about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So like I said, I called my mom asking if she could get a hold of her, and she said that she spent the last 2 days at her boyfriend's house. And the worst part was, my sister was the only one with a key to my apartment. So my sister calls me the next day and she's like, "Hey, sorry, like I was at my boyfriend's house." And I was like, "Who fed the animals?" And she was like, "Well, I just put enough in their cages so that way they would be fine for like 3 days. And she was like, "Don't worry, I'll sleep over there tonight to make sure they're okay." So I'm like having a fucking panic attack right now. Anyways, so fast forward, I get home early in the morning and my sister's sleeping on the couch, but my sister brought over her animals too. So I wake my sister up and I'm like, hey, like, how are all the animals? She's like, oh, they're fine. And then we walk into the kitchen and the fucking bird cage is open and my birds are missing and her cats are nowhere to be found. So now I'm freaking the fuck out. So then I go to check on the rest of my animals, like for part 3. Part 3 about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So like I said, we walk into the kitchen and the bird cage is open and my birds are nowhere to be found and neither is her cat. So at that point, I run to check on all of my other animals. Thankfully, the snakes were fine, so I go to check on my tarantula and he's missing. So now I grabbed my sister's dogs, locked them in my room, and I went to go check on my hamsters. Yeah, she forgot to feed them the whole week because one of them ate the other one. So at this point, I'm having like a mental fucking breakdown and I'm moving all the furniture in the living room and everything like that. And we lift up the couch and we see her cat bolt out from under the couch. After that, I look under the couch and my bird is literally torn into pieces under the fucking couch. A few days later, she texted me and she was like, hey, like, I feel so bad. Like, let me buy you a new bird and a new tarantula. And to this day, 2 years later, I still don't know what happened to them.
Am I the asshole for getting a bartender fired for not serving a pregnant woman? I, 23 female, bartend on weekends for some side cash. A few weeks ago, a woman came into our bar and she looked about 7 to 8 months pregnant. For context, I'm one of the head bartenders. I was minding my own business, training a new hire around 4 or 5 p.m. One of the other bartenders, Annie, 19 female, came up to me to talk about a ridiculous customer. That customer being the pregnant woman. She wanted a glass of red wine and Annie refused to serve her and suggested we ask her to leave. I looked at her like she had 2 heads. Even if someone looks pregnant, you still have to serve. Am I the asshole for getting a bartender fired for not serving a pregnant woman? You still have to serve them, or that could be a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen. As much as I didn't like it, I got the glass of wine and did my 2 cents. I went back to training our new hire when Annie saw the woman with the glass of wine. She called me a baby killer and said I was a terrible person, and at this point the other staff members saw what was going on. Most minded their business, but some told her to cut it out. I said whether we like it or not, someone needed to serve the woman. I wasn't putting my butt on the line for a lawsuit over a glass of wine. She called me terrible for 2 weeks, so I reported her to the GM. For this and other reasons, she was fired.
Am I the asshole for calling the police on my niece who stole my car? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I, 46 female, live on a farm with my husband and 2 kids. My brother Dwayne, 38, has a daughter, Emma, 15. My brother and his wife have always been very quick to compliment me on the behavior of my children. Angela, my sister-in-law, confides in me about Emma's troubles. Emma is very reckless, she shoplifts, drinks, has an older boyfriend, and she gets into fights at school. She's also constantly suspended in and out of school. Over the summer, Emma had a run-in with the law, and they were told that if she didn't straighten up her act that she would end up in prison. They were suggested and tried therapy, but Emma would never participate. Dwayne asked me if I would take Emma and teach her some responsibility. The arrangement was that I would take Emma for the final month of summer, enroll her in school here, and keep her for the first semester. If everything went well, she was welcome to stay with us, otherwise other options would be explored. She didn't do well all through July. Her boyfriend drove to visit her to my surprise. Am I the asshole for calling the police on my niece who stole my car? Disclaimer, this is not my story. Her boyfriend drove over to visit her to my surprise. I tried to make him leave, but it caused some backlash, so I figured I would set visitation, then wean her time from him more and more. Then I caught her smoking one of those electronic cigarettes twice. She would never do any of the work asked. She would talk back, steal food, break things, and would be rude to my children. All of that could be dealt with. One morning we got into an argument because I told her I was chaining up the fridge and she better act right or else she would be forced to scavenge for her food around the farm and cook it herself. And if she doesn't want to contribute, she gets nothing the household has worked for. She was livid, throwing stuff, stomping her feet, and making rude gestures. My son and I left to tend to the animals. After an hour, I sent my son back home. He came back asking me if Dad took the car. We quickly realized Emma had stolen my car. Not only that, but she doesn't have a license, only a permit. So I called the police. They found her 2 hours later and arrested her. They charged her with a misdemeanor for driving without a license. My brother and his wife were furious with me. They said that she stole their car all the time, but always brought them back.